Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Broken Dice. We're bringing you the end of my solo wargaming campaign of Rome in Iberia. This would be what I would refer to as Season 1 because we will revisit this sometime later in the year. Let's get into this thing. This is going to be like a little recap of this season. I'm not going to go into each battle. You can watch the videos on those. That's already out there. I want to talk about, kind of what I liked, what kind of how I envisioned this thing, and then the final outcome, and what I plan to do next. All right. First of all, let's talk about the campaign. In most campaigns, you're going to have something that moves you from stage to stage, right? So we know that Rome was going to invade Iberia, so we need to take into context these relationships that these different tribal contingencies have with each other and have with Rome. And so what I decided to do was I had this map and had all the various tribal names in their areas. And so what I did was I randomly rolled a die 6, and that became their fixed diplomacy rating for the campaign turns. And then for the Romans, because they had kind of shifting sort of alliances throughout their conquest of Iberia with different tribes, they would bribe this tribe to fight this tribe, or bribe this tribe not to take part, or bully this one into helping them, or they had these different relationships with different tribes. So for the Romans, for each campaign turn, I gave them a random die 6 number. And then you can go back through this real quick. You roll the dice, you add the diplomacy rating, and whoever had the highest number won off, and that either allowed the Iberians to get aid from a surrounding tribe, or the Romans prevented it. It's very straightforward. The diplomacy ratings were not based on any historical research, just a random number. And this methodology, I think, could probably work out for a lot of different time periods, especially when you've got shifting alliances and allies and stuff like that. That could play out through different times in history. Each campaign turn began as Rome was going to invade a certain tribe, okay? And so you would take these diplomacy rolls at that point in time. Now, when you got into the games themselves, the diplomacy rating really allowed you either to have help or not have help. And so that was about the extent of it on the table itself. But basically, it was a kind of a standalone phase from campaign turn to campaign turn. In these two campaign turns that the Romans, in the first part of the games, they did really well. They prevented, I think there was only one or two instances where the Romans were the Iberians were able to get aid from surrounding tribes. So a lot of the Roman money was being changed hands, apparently. But in the first two turns, the Romans did pretty good, but not so much in the last turn. Oh, the dice of war. Okay, so when you got to these, the games themselves, how many games? What would it take? Would it just a one-off game to decide the fate of an entire tribe? It could be. I would really like to see it more like, depending on the size of the area. Now, I think I had one that it was a fairly small tribe, and it didn't seem like without help they wouldn't be able to last very long, and that it would be kind of a quick battle for the Romans to take over this very small province, and I think that happened one or two times in one of the campaign turns. But normally I would like to have it like a minimum of 3, a maximum of 6 battles. And as we all know, time is the killer of all campaigns. So really, the number should probably between 1 and 4 games, maybe 1 to 3, because we know that if you were trying to play this out with another person, it would really drag on and could get bogged down, would say, with external life responsibilities stepping in and curtailing it. But that was the way I started off. But that is something that players and the person doing a solo game has to just decide for themselves to do. Okay, let's take a look at the campaign area for season 1. It was like this eastern coast along the Mediterranean. Um, kind of centered around Saguntum, which was basically kind of allied with Rome during at the beginning of the Punic Wars. Hannibal made quick work of them, but they did not like the fact that the Carthaginians were on their way and were going to take over their city, and so they were the ones that initiated the call to help from Rome. And Rome probably didn't need any instigation to lend help. But this is the area in which the Romans are going to start their conquest of the Iberian Peninsula after the Second Punic War. So they did really well, like I said, on the first few turns. This is the area of operation that they had success. Now towards the north, where you want to open up those passes in the Pyrenees Mountains so you can get supplies and reinforcements throughout the year, rather than trying to rely on naval resupply, especially during the winter months in the Mediterranean. Moving vast numbers of troops during the winter was not really done, not voluntarily, let's say, at this point in time in history. So, yeah, it was an interesting campaign. Let's leave that up. We'll go on to the next one. What did I learn from my solo campaign? Well, the first thing I learned that I didn't like my card system, I can tell you that. I started off using a card system to try to manipulate successful or failed orders within the game. Obviously, if you play Hail Caesars, you know that you roll for orders, and if it's successful, you can continue to issue orders. And I was trying to think of a way to where I could keep the flow of the game, but not necessarily just do away with rolling for orders and make it more like any other ancient battle game where you just move your troops and there's no need to see if they respond to your commands. So what I decided to do in the beginning was issue each side a suit of cards from a playing deck. You have 13 cards, and you can start the game. I normally started the game off with 3 cards, and then it was 2 cards, 2 fresh cards in the next subsequent turns, to a total of 6 turns, I believe, for the most, if the game lasted that long. But what I found out was that it became what's the one word? It really slowed the game down. It bogged it down quite a bit. Get a successful order, then challenge that order's success. You could actually even make it fail, or you could only make it succeed by a little less than what the original roll was. Um, for example, let's just say a Roman general succeeds in his order by 3, and whoever his opponent is wants to void that order, make that a failed order. So he plays his card. Let's just say the challenging player plays a jack out of his hand. Now, these cards are dealt randomly, so it could be anything, but let's just say he plays his highest card in his hand, which is a jack. And the other player knows that he really needs to have this unit move, but he only has like a 9 of whatever suit that he's possessing. So he knows he's going to have a difference of 2. So instead of him having a successful order of 3 moves, he's now down to 1 move. So the opposing player doesn't actually automatically do away with the order. He has to win the playing of the cards to a degree that it's +3 to whatever his opponent plays. And it could be, you know, if say you had a very low card, but you play the card anyway, you make the other person play a card to make that order successful. Just added a little, I thought it would add a little level of strategy. But in solo wargaming and in view from above, it tended to bog the game down. So if you won by 3 or more, then it was a failed order anyway. But if you only won by 1 or 2, then it was reduced by that amount. And so if he only succeeded by 2 and you won the card play by 2, then you know it was a failed order anyway. So, but I just thought it would add a little level of strategy, but it just bogged the game down. So I stopped doing that. It made the games clunky for solo play. But I can see if I'm playing another opponent, it could get pretty interesting that way. But that's for another time. And if I can convince one of my buddies to give me a game and we can actually play it out on the table that way, it might be interesting to see if it actually works with another human player. If anybody else does that and tries it out, let me know what you find out. Does it work? Okay, the second thing I learned, and what I really like, was that I do love the new Hail Caesar book. I like the way it's organized. I like the way it's put together. You know, when you're doing solo and a lot of times you got to look stuff up, quick references in the back, I just enjoy it. I did enjoy my diplomacy rating for the campaign turns. I think that under these circumstances played out fairly well. I was pleased that it didn't, for the most part, skew any of the games radically, even when help was generated. And it didn't generate it because I put some restrictions on there of no more than a division. Because, you know, say you have a campaign turn, you're going to fight 4 battles. Well, if you get help from your neighboring tribes of, say, 4 units, do you use them all in one battle, or do you divvy them up 1 per battle? You know, there's a lot of options there, but you're stuck at a maximum of 4. So that's up to the player that gets the aid, how they want to see that played out. But you don't get that 4 advantage in every battle. You only get it for the campaign, and so how you use that aid is very important. So, but the diplomacy rating, I think it worked out fairly well. I would definitely employ this in other time periods, especially when you have shifting alliances. All right, how'd the campaign season end? Well, it ended with a Pyrrhic victory for the Romans and a complete and utter defeat for the Romans. That's why the season ended where it did. I think at this point in time, it would be one where you have to fall back with your allied tribes and hopefully survive the winter, um, and wait for reinforcements to begin the campaign again, which will happen sometime in the fall. I will come back and revisit this campaign again. I got some more stuff I want to get together and paint, and put, assemble and stuff for this campaign. Um, let's see. Some things turned out very historically accurate. Other things were kind of quirky. Um, Sometimes the dice rolling was just horrid for both sides. Uh, but that's why we play. And well, that brings us to the end. What's next? As I said, next up will be in the fall, the beginning of the second season of this campaign. But in this next season, I am going to utilize problem-solving methodology for my war games. And that's going to require a whole video on that setup, what's going to be required, because there's going to be a lot of shifting variables within the game. And in this form of play, I will be taking sides. I will actually be playing the game and being required to problem solve with limited assets. If I have unlimited assets to solve a problem, then I don't think I have a problem. So you have to create a problem that you may or may not be able to solve, but it'll be an interesting test of choice making, let's say, in wargaming. It'll be fun to see how it plays out. I have a lot of different cards I've made up for random events, certain actions that can take place. A lot of these will be given to my, for a better term in this day and age, an AI, the artificial intelligence opponent, whose actions will be based off historical precedent and what seems right. And who knows, I may even just post a video and ask an opinion of the group that follows me, and they can tell me what they think the next move for my opponent should be. All right, something along those lines. But this summer is going to be a little bit of research in that and how I really want to put that together. All right, that ends this video. I hope you guys kind of like this sort of stuff. This is kind of fun for me. It kind of breaks up all the putting together, assembly and painting and terrain making and all that kind of stuff. Kind of breaks that up and puts the stuff out on the table. And it gives me a break from just doing the same kind of videos that a lot of people that are doing then do them so much better than myself. This is kind of my little niche in this world of wargaming that I kind of like to do. So if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe. A lot of painting and assembly videos coming up and getting ready for the next campaign season. And then next year I'm going to switch it up. I'm not going to do Rome in Iberia. I might be doing Dark Ages if I can get some more units put together and a little bit more terrain. I've got a lot of buildings done, but that'll be interesting to do. So everybody stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time.